I am here. I am here. Good evening. I am here. I am here. Are you? I am here. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Phoenix Free Press. I am here. Are you? Have you been looking for me? Have you been looking out for Phoenix Free Press tonight? Let me know that you're here. Drop your comments. Let me know. Remember to share the live. I am here. We are here. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's Saturday, January the 20th, 2024. I am here with you for another Phoenix Free Press right here, Phoenix Free Press, independent platform, our space, our place and our space on a Saturday night to speak about the issues, all issues, any issues. We bring it to the table, we dissect it, we investigate, we, deliberate. This is our platform, an independent platform. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Phoenix Free Press. Where are you guys and what are you drinking tonight? What's your drink of choice? So I have a glass of water. Or should I say the British way? I have a glass of water. I have a glass of water. I have a bit of orange juice that I was having earlier. But a bit of orange juice and a bit of orange juice. You know what I mean? And then I have my coffee. At exactly 8:30 in the evening, Honorable Trevor Walker, Member of Parliament for Barbuda, will be right here on Phoenix Free Press platform. So let everyone know that he's going to be here. We're going to prepare the platform for tonight's discussion. So be sure to share the live, leave your comments. I see Charlene says she has her Hennessy and cranberry. To hear her MP. All right, MP Trevor Walker is your MP. All right, all right, all right. So he's going to be in the house tonight. So welcome everyone. It's Saturday night. I'm not sure what type of week you had, but I trust that you're still staying prayed up. I mean, that's so important. Staying prayed up, it's vital, especially in this day and age. You need to know yourself and you need to be like taking control of what's happening up here. Yeah. If you watched last Saturday, you saw that I had a number of aloe vera little items on display right here, right here, right here, right here. How can you get those? Just ask me, Nikki, how? Nikki, what are you saying? How can you get those? So Forever Young aloe vera. Valerie Samuel, the telephone number. I'll put it on our scroll here in a minute. You'll see it, and also the email address. But when you go to Forever Living, you'll be going to her direct link or her direct page. So you can take a screenshot of that. Yeah. To get the information there too. So, yes, guys, what are you drinking? Other than Hennessy and cranberry and my coffee and water, what are you sipping on? Because I even said to MP Trevor Walker, like I say to all of our guests when I invite them to the platform, I let them know it's a sip and chat. And on the sip and chat, I just let them know they need to have something to drink. So whether it's a cup of tea, whether it's a glass of water, whether it's a glass of wine, whatever it is, we need to have a sip and chat on it. But what are we talking about tonight? Tonight it's all about Barbuda. Barbuda. It's Antigua and Barbuda, our beautiful twin island state of Antigua and Barbuda, yeah? Our twin island state. Let's get started tonight, guys. I have to put out my disclaimer, and not only my disclaimer, but a bit of advertising, because I can't advertise for everybody else and not advertise like my own work and what I'm doing and how you can support me. And I'm not just doing this for all fun. It's fun and games, but got to make some sense too. So, this is my own independent platform. My independent news platform is Free Press 268. Our website, the website is www.freepress268.com. Our news email address, it's news at freepress268.com. When we attend the post cabinet press briefing, I, Nikki Phoenix, attend post cabinet press briefing on the Free Press 268 as we grow and expand. You see my face smiling for that. As we grow and expand, I look forward to other journalists under the Phoenix Press 268 brand attending post cabinet press briefings, not only in Antigua, but across the region and, spreading our wings near and far and wide and just, doing great things. So, yes, news at freepress260.com is the news email address. Send your news, send your updates there. Our mantra, our logo, no bias, no agenda, just facts. That's what we just bring the facts. Yeah. We are working. I initially was going to say I am working, but I say we are working here together to foster an environment where anyone and everyone can come and sit, have a sip with us, share their truth without any bias or limitations. All ideas must contend. However, our audience, my team, my support system that we've gotten to this far on Free Press 268, they get to decide the topics. They get to decide areas of concerns, what we should speak about, what we shouldn't speak about, what we should address. They decide that. Our people here on the platform decides that. In a later time, I'll tell you guys why I'm saying that, yeah? All right. So all ideas must contend, be strong and firm and, be bold and come and sit and speak your truth. What? Speak your truth. I am Nikki Phoenix, the one and the only. I'm serious. I'm Nikki Phoenix. You know this. I'm a creative and ambitious person who is passionate about empowering women and girls. Yeah, through my various activities and platforms. I'm speaking about myself and then, yes, yes. I am curious and eager to learn new things and improve my skills. I'm someone who values quality, excellence, equality. No, like seriously, that's like, 50-50 kind of thing. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. It's in my head. In everything that I do, I am the brand. Like I am my own brand. I stand for everything that's meaningful and inspiring. And tonight, whatever we speak about here, again, it's to advance the lives and livelihoods of people and the citizens, not only of Barbuda, of Antigua and Barbuda, not only Antigua and Barbuda, but the Caribbean, and not only the Caribbean, but the region and the world at large. Because the issues that we speak about, we might be speaking about a particular issue, calling particular ministers' names and situations, but as governments, there's a continuous challenge to get some governments, I'm going to say some governments, to understand their role when they are placed there by the people through this system they call democracy, where we go and vote. It's like an application. Everything I just said there just now to you, when I'm saying I'm Nikki Phoenix and I'm creative, I'm passionate, I'm personal, blah blah blah. You were saying to me, I was like, is Nikki trying to give me an application? But when the ministers come to you, when they're trying to get into these positions, that's what they do, right? They give you an application and you decide, do they run the government or not? Are these ministers going to represent me or not? Yeah. So tonight we're speaking about Barbuda, and it's very personal and very passionate. I'm not just a journalist sitting here tonight just speaking about it. I've been to Barbuda. I covered what happened at her in her throughout the time of Hurricane Irma. I was working at Observer. I was there at Observer. We were sleeping over, had our beds, everything well set up at Observer. And when everything happened, I traveled to Barbuda with Kieran Murdoch, and we traveled through Barbuda. We did interviews. I interviewed the mother, who lost her 2-year-old son. And 2017 was a very, very, very difficult and painful time for everyone. But we can't even begin to understand for the people of Barbuda. And my heart is going like, you know, so I want to give you a little refresher tonight. I want us to, put aside the red, the blue, the green, the orange, the purple. I want us to put aside all our personal issues and just get real, and talk about real issues and real facts and just speak our truth. Yeah. So Hurricane Irma was the first Category 5 hurricane to hit the Leeward Islands on record. It made landfall on Barbuda on September 6th, 2017, with winds of 185 miles per hour. Irma caused widespread and catastrophic damage on Barbuda, destroying about 90% of the buildings and infrastructure and killing a 2-year-old, Carl Williams Jr., I think. I gotta check back on my notes. I was trying to find all my notes today. But yes, the entire population of about 1,800 people was evacuated to Antigua, the sister island, as another Hurricane Jose was approaching. Prime Minister Gaston Brown, Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, estimated that it would take up to $300 million to rebuild Barbuda. He also proposed to change the land tenure system on the island, which grants communal ownership of lands to Barbudans to allow for private and foreign investment. The land tenure proposal sparked controversy and resistance from Barbudans who feared losing their ancestral rights and their unique culture and environment. Two Barbudans, John Mossington and Jackie Frank, challenged the construction of a private airport for billionaire PLH investors in court, arguing that it violated the Barbuda Land Act of 2007 and threatened the island's fragile ecosystem. You've been following. We attended Privy Council. I was going to say we saw the representative from the government saying, but Your Honor, but my lord, but Your Honor. The case reaches UK Privy Council, the final court of appeal for Antigua and Barbuda, which is expected to make a judgment within the next few weeks, any day now. The 8th of November was the date where John and Jackie was here in the UK at the Privy Council. 8 to 12 weeks was the average time given, any day now. The verdict could have implications for other Caribbean citizens who want to challenge their governments over environmental issues. As of 2021, only about 1,000 people have returned to Barbuda, and the island remains largely deserted and devastated. Some businesses and services have reopened, but electricity and water are still unreliable. Many Barbudans are struggling to rebuild their homes and livelihoods while also coping with the psychological trauma of the disaster. Carl Francis Jr., that's his name. 2 years old. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So the MP for Barbuda, Honorable Trevor Walker, will be joining us at 8:30 in the evening, well, around 8:25, 8:30. That was the best time for him, and we're happy to have him. We need to have him. We need to have a good long chat. Like, we need to have a good long sip and chat. But let's think about it. Just this week, information came were US $1 million, US $1 million that had been donated by British philanthropist Steve Morgan of the Steve Morgan Foundation, never transferred to the Barbuda Council. They didn't receive it. The information was made public by MP Trevor Walker. Prime Minister Gaston Brown responded. So before MP Trevor Walker come, you might have missed. I was listening this evening to Serpent in the Snake Pit, and I captured a little at the end. I was listening to most of it, but I captured the end, which I think I want us to listen to together, which would be like an intro to or an opening to MP Trevor Walker. But I also want to share a little bit of this, not too much. Not too much, guys. I'm going to read a little paragraph here that says, Steve has chased Gaston Brown on many occasions since then and not received a response. In desperation, Steve contacted Trevor Walker, MP, who we understand has now raised this publicly at the council meeting. But it's not only at the council meeting now, we are here. We are here. So US $1 million. But if you've been listening to Serpent this afternoon, when he was reading all the email communications over the period, actual email communications between Steve and his assistant and the government of Antigua and Barbuda and Prime Minister Gaston Brown, and the money being tied up and how it is, and this different back and forth and stuff like that. But I want you to listen to this letter. I want you to listen to this letter. This is the ending part of one of the letters that Serpent was reading. So you'll be getting Serpent in the Snake Pit in a couple of minutes.
Stroll.
Go ahead.
Because after Mr. Stroll, after we done from this, I mean, as we really had to air this out, but Malwin may come for you.
Oh, goodness and mercy.
This letter said it concludes with this Mr. Stroll, not Stroll,
That's right. Morgan.
Mr.
Mr.
Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Dear Prime Minister, it was 3 months yesterday that we had our meet. This was dated the 4th of July, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 months yesterday that we had our meeting in your office to discuss the above funds. During that meeting, you assured me that you would write me to confirm our agreed way forward, which, as a reminder, is detailed below. Disappointingly, to date, and after several chase-up emails being sent by my personal assistant, I am still waiting on a response from you. It is blatantly unfair to the people of Barbuda for this issue to be prolonged any further. Blatantly unfair. Now, bear in mind what Mr. Morgan said in a previous email, that they jumped to the aid of Barbuda within 4 days of Irma, and gave $1 million US. Right?
Yeah.
Since then to now, nothing has done with. But they've been reaching out to you, contacting you, emailing you, having meetings with you, having meetings with other people in high places, etc. Nothing.
Why?
Now me finally meet with you. You made certain assurances. Months later, nothing. My director's not looking favorably at doing nothing, no grants or anything to Barbuda.
Hereafter.
I'm here to Antigua and Barbuda hereafter.
Hereafter.
You understand the predicament that this man has put us in?
Long time. Yeah.
Now, I go further. Now, this is what we know of. What about those that we don't know of?
Yeah, like a money to some $100,000 money given to.
Mr. Speaker, I'm here.
Hold on. It is blatantly unfair
Go ahead.
to the people of Barbuda for this matter to be prolonged any further. The money was given in a good faith for the benefit of the people following Hurricane Irma. And I must really insist that you honor your word.
Very good.
Ay, 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 the
Yeah.
man,
Wow. Yeah.
the man get out.
That's all caps.
You not take that lightly.
Yes,
The
sir.
man get out
That's all caps.
and bold.
Yes.
I really must insist
You must.
that you honor your word.
Mm-hmm.
I ask yet again for you or a member of your team to provide an updated timetable for a legally bound implementation of the agreement.
Legally.
As a reminder, our agreement was as follows. And he come back again and tell them, well, all them agree
The reminder, yes.
that they're going to remove the money from Global Bank of Commerce by way of a guarantee scheme
Yeah.
and place the 1 million in an interest-bearing escrow account in a different
A
bank.
different bank. Move it from that bank to a different bank.
Oh, Lord.
Clear that.
Pending completion of the legal process above, a housing scheme would be procured using the 1 million US grant plus a minimum of 2 million US, which you had already, you said had already been allocated for the purpose by other sources. I will be in Antigua on Thursday, 20th of July until the 5th of August. I am happy to arrange to meet with you again if you feel this would be helpful.
Wow.
This issue needs to be resolved for the sake of the people of Barbuda.
Yeah.
Remaining silent will not make this issue go away.
Oh, no. What? The talkative can't speak?
Yes, yes.
Can I say something here?
He hold.
You pacify a drop?
I want to repeat that sentence
Yes,
for
you
Mr.
should.
Morgan.
You should.
Mr. Morgan says this issue
Remaining
needs to be resolved for the sake of the people of Barbuda.
Mhm.
Remaining silent will not make this issue go away.
Oh, boy.
Yes, Honorable Watts.
I look forward to hearing from you so that we can move forward once and for all.
Oh, boy.
And at the end, he says, to date, we have had no further communication.
Wow.
The issue here is with Mr. Morgan is not that the man short for cash. Because just yesterday I was talking to a civil servant who had some kind of dealings with him as on a business level. And this man is really
All right, I give you a little bit of that. I want you to have a little bit of this. Our guest tonight, MP Trevor Walker, is in our chat room, but I wanted you to get a little bit of this.
My presentation on the 2024 budget statement. And I want to start by saying, I listen especially to my colleague from Rural West, and I want to say to us tonight that what we were given was a bogus document. Yes. No disrespect to the good technicians in the Ministry of Finance, but when I went through it, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time like I normally do tonight, it just doesn't add up. It just does not make sense. And I'm going to start by just giving you an example of what was said by the Prime Minister in his budget statement. And I quote, he says here, the CIP program contributes nearly 60% of non-tax revenue. And even though this contribution is this expected amount is going to be 67 million in 2023, the same level as in 2022, the overall non-tax revenue is expected to decline. Now, 67 million, and if you check this, I mean, who have access to it? He's saying he's expecting from CIP alone 100 million. Now, if 67 million, you're expecting less, that's what your statement says, you know, it doesn't correspond with this, all right? So I just want to posit that as a part of what I want to say tonight in terms of the Prime Minister's presentation. Brothers and sisters, Madam Speaker, the budget that was presented to us will create the most hardship that the people of Antigua and Barbuda would have ever experienced in decades. Decades. 17% ABST. I'm not going to quote everything, but as was said, the control of customs, all the tax people that collects revenues for Antigua and Barbuda has said that everything is increasing, has said that Antigua and Barbuda is on an upward trajectory when it comes to the collection and payment of taxes. Yet still, 17% was given or placed on the backs of the people of Antigua and Barbuda with the excuse or with the caveat that is to fund the public sector increase of 9%. That is what we are told. So I want to ask the Prime Minister and the members of his government, is it fair for the private sector to carry on their backs the funding of an increase alone for public sector when you can get that money elsewhere? Is it fair? You're talking about ABST yield. The yield is about, from what I understand, less than 50%. And you're collecting over 300 million. So if you just try to increase your compliance to about 75%, 80%, you're going to collect anything like $200 million, maybe $150 million more. So I want to say to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, we have a government in power that is not interested in the well-being of the people of Antigua and Barbuda. They're not interested. And I'm going to go to Barbuda first and come back, because I'm quite sure you all heard the news. And let me say tonight, the last year budget, we discovered a container, 2 containers consigned. And I know we don't have immunity, but I'm speaking the truth. Consigned to one Senator Govaya. I spoke about that. With lumber and all kind of equipment and so. That never reached Barbuda. Last year I made that revelation. This year now, $1 million US. I was sitting at the airport in Toronto when I got a phone call, a very strange number. I said to myself, I can't pay no roaming thing to accept this call. But the Lord said to me, answer. When I answered the call, it was one Steve Morgan. He is responsible for that trust that was set up to ensure that some relief can be given to Barbuda. He introduced himself to me. He said, I'm Steve Morgan. I said, Steve Morgan, who are you? I said, sir, I'm overseas. I cannot speak very long because, I said, no, bear me out, sir, bear me out. The man said to me that after the passage of Hurricane Irma, which came on the 6th of September, 2017, on the 18th of September, not even a month, his charity gave the government $1 million US. $1 million US. He called the Prime Minister and he said to the Prime Minister, we are making available $1 million US for the aid of the people of Barbuda relief after the hurricane. The Prime Minister specifically, and he must come and counter me because I'm quite sure he's listening, specifically instructed him to put that money into the Global Bank of Commerce. Why you have to ask Gaston Brown that? Sorry, I'm not debating the normal way, but you must say the truth.
We have Honorable Trevor Walker in our chat room tonight. Welcome to everyone who's joining us. Thank you for sharing the live. Remember, you can leave your comments. You can share the live. You can let me know what you're having to drink. You can drop your questions also. And once we have exhausted our conversation, we've gone in depth. I will be going through the questions, but once we've done so, I'll pose your questions also to MP Trevor Walker. So let's welcome him to our chat room tonight. MP Trevor Walker, good evening.
Good evening, Nikki, and it's a pleasure being with you. I'm really delighted for a little chit-chat tonight. And I just want to say I'm so happy to be here tonight. Thank you so much for
Thank
having me.
you. Thank you. Thank you for accepting my invitation. What's your drink of choice tonight?
Well, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to have something very soft, like a little iced tea sometimes that relaxes the membranes and the nerves. And
We want you to have a drink that's gonna allow you to spill the beans because we just want you spilling the beans tonight.
well, I will do that, but I don't need anything alcoholic to do that. Trust me. Because bearing in mind, I am preparing myself as well for church tomorrow. So
Oh
um,
yes, it's
that's,
true. You should have water.
thank you.
Welcome and thank you again for accepting my invitation. Honorable Trevor Walker, Barbuda, Hurricane Irma. It has been, to be exact, 6 years, 4 months, and 14 days. What is the state of Barbuda today, the 20th of January 2024?
But let me just say, as I always say, I am personally very disappointed, and members of my council is very disappointed as well. Are very disappointed in the fact that the recovery effort, not only it has been slow, but also, as you know, there's revelations coming to hand now that we didn't get justice. Let me just put it that way. Presently, for example, we received in 2018, just towards the end of 2017 into 2018, a loan / grant was actually approved by the Caribbean Development Bank, which included some grant funding from the government of Canada and other countries to assist Barbuda. Those funds included repairs to our main council office because that building was damaged. And community center, for example, as another building that should have been repaired. We know what, 6 years after Hurricane Irma, and those repairs started last week. All right, so notwithstanding the fact that these funds were approved and Canada, for example, donated funds for those efforts, whatever the reason is for our government, those repairs only started last week. And so you imagine having to spend 6 years in a building where your main secretariat is, where your treasury is, and where all the basically operational activities takes place with less than ideal conditions, non-functional bathrooms, no air condition, etc., etc. So, we're not very happy. What I can say is that we're very resilient people, and notwithstanding the fact that things did not work out the way it should have, we have stayed the course and just ensured that we survive and make the best of the situation.
How many of the homes have been rebuilt? If you give an average, how many homes that were there before damaged really badly and rebuilt?
I think just under 100 or maybe just about 100 homes, because bearing in mind we also received some monies from the European Union. I think it's 5 million euros from the European Union to assist us with that. When the assessment was done, the number was far greater than 100. And for whatever reason, towards the end of the process, we recognized that the government said, without any major input from us, that the money could only accommodate just around 100 homes to be repaired. And so we're also very disappointed with that. I spoke about those type of homes that were given to the people, where homes were repaired, some were built, no plastering, no wiring, just a shell, really. And one bedroom, is just something that I think other countries, including Antigua, would not have accepted. So again, accountability, for example, that 5 million euros, which amounted to about 15 million, just under 15 million EC dollars, again, has not been forthcoming. So there's a lot to be desired for the entire process that the government ensued after Hurricane Irma when it comes to Barbuda and relief efforts.
What about water and electricity in Barbuda?
Well, it took us over a year to restore electricity, and I would imagine it is also something that people are wondering why a small island with one village would take over a year to get electricity restored. So again, we went through a lot. I mean, we burned our candles, and we, purchased fuel for generators, and it was a tough ordeal. I remember back then our students that were going to school had a very hard time getting assignments done, and of course, the ordeal with the school. The government refused to rebuild it because they thought that it was not sound, and they were expecting a new school from the Dominican Republic, which never came. And so, we had to do our best to rebuild the school, which we did. So we went through a lot. It was difficult. The water situation was similar in terms of getting potable water in the taps in a timely manner. But you know what? The help of the Samaritan Purse and other donor agencies, charitable agencies like Shelter Box, etc., we managed, and we're still here. And so I just want to thank the people for being so tough and resilient.
Yes. This week you brought some shocking revelations regarding your information, the telephone call that you received, philanthropist Steve Morgan making a donation of over $1 million US. Yesterday, I also read an article where it said that you might have information of additional money that might not have been accounted for. I'd like to give you an opportunity to give us a run through of how you came upon this information. What's been your discussion so far with Mr. Morgan? Have you notified him that the public knows, the media knows, the Prime Minister responded, that sort of thing, and then we can take our conversation from there.
No problem. So, and I want to be a little bit more specific because when I did the People's Parliament, I tried to get everything into the time. We only had 25 minutes. So,
go ahead.
So at the end of the day, I just gave that cursory information. But I was on my way to Canada. As a matter of fact, I was actually at Toronto's airport. I landed in Toronto airport in October, the Sunday after the passage of Hurricane Tommy. So I was in the airport trying to get a connecting flight to Nova Scotia. So while I was sitting there, my phone rang, and as I said, I saw a strange number. Then most of my numbers are recorded, so when you call me, it's unique, etc., etc. And I wasn't very keen. I didn't really want to answer because traveling, just thought that I screened that. But something told me to answer. When I did answer the phone, it was Mr. Morgan, somebody who I don't know. So he did introduce himself. He said, "I'm Mr. Morgan. I'm calling you." He called me Senator Walker. Senator Walker. I said, "Do you have a minute?" I said, "Sir, I'm traveling at the moment. You're going to have to call me back because, I'm catching a connecting flight." He said, "Just give me a second. I just want to explain something to you, the relief funds." And as soon as I heard the word relief funds, I said, "Of course, I really want to hear what that is about." And so he told me that he made available $1 million US to the government since 2017. And that's what caught my attention. I said, "Excuse me, sir, you said 2017. He said, "Yes." He said the Prime Minister ringed him up, or his foundation, or however he got in touch with them, and were soliciting money for the Barbuda relief effort after that strong storm hit Barbuda. And so he said he spoke to his board, this is what he told me, and they immediately agreed unanimously to make some money available to Barbuda. And so he said he made arrangements for the monies to be transferred to the government, to an account, of course, that the government indicated. One thing that was very interesting, I remember, and that he said that he was actually instructed to put the money into the Global Bank of Commerce. So it's not a situation where they gave him a choice per se, right? They specifically asked him to deposit that money to the Global Bank of Commerce. He said to me, part of the arrangement was, and remember, I'm trying to rush this conversation because I'm traveling, was that this money was to be used in Barbuda to help the recovery effort, especially the most vulnerable persons when it comes to housing. I remember that very specifically. He said to me, I said, "I know you're traveling. Mr. Walker, I'm very frustrated. I have resorted to you as a member of, he said the senator for Barbuda, but I think I knew what he meant, because this thing is not going anywhere. And the government cannot accept trust funds, charitable funds, and not give an account for these funds. And my understanding is, which I'm pretty sure of, those funds have not reached Barbuda. And I confirmed to him, sir, they have not reached Barbuda. He said to me, he'd like to give me a chronology of the information. I said, sir, I'm catching my flight now. I will give you my email, which I actually WhatsApped to him. And I said to him, we'll speak later. I got his number as well, because he told me to save his number. And he said to call him at any time to get additional information. Because, and before he hung up, he said to me, because the Prime Minister has refused to take his calls. All right? So that's all I knew in October of last year. Remember, listen to dates, all right? So I went on my trip to Nova Scotia. I came back home. I think I was only there for about 6 days, 6 days, came back home. And then I reached out, like I do, to the Ministry of Finance. And I tried to find out what the situation was and why this money never reached Barbuda. I got some answers, which I wouldn't say what they were, and I got some, we're going to look into it and make sure, yes, I know about it, and we're supposed to, the kind of Melbourne Bush story. And then during the budget presentation, and that took place in December, when that was done, I actually spoke to a few members of the Ministry of Finance, again, because during the budget presentation, the contingent from the Ministry of Finance attended.
Yes.
And I was told, again, the same story, we're going to look into it, we're going to reach out to Mr. Morgan because, and I concluded in my mind, whenever that was, I remember the date of the budget presentation, that this is bigger than those technicians in the Ministry of Finance. I decided that myself. I thought this is bigger than that. I came back to Barbuda, I mentioned it to my colleagues and the council. I think in an executive meeting, listen, this situation is going on, and, and then I constantly, since January up until the 19th, which was yesterday, when was the 19th? Yesterday, I think. Mr. Morgan continuously pressing me to investigate this matter, to find out what's going on, because he cannot allow his charitable organization to not give an account for these monies. And more so, he is very upset that these monies have never reached Barbuda, and he's not getting any feedback, any communication at all cannot be established with the Office of the Prime Minister. So he said to me, very frankly, use your good office and get some answers to ensure that this matter is resolved. And so after we set up the council on Wednesday of last week, during the setting up, I made some comments. And one of the things I said, Mr. Prime Minister, could you tell the nation what is the situation with this $1 million that was given by the Stephen Morgan Foundation? After that, apparently, of course, he was watching, and he put out a press statement saying that, yes, the money was credited. And in essence, there was some problem with some corresponding bank, and you know the story because I think it's public with that. The problem with that story is that it does not correspond with the information that Mr. Morgan sent to me. Right? Based on what Mr. Morgan is saying, that they said the problem was with the Global Bank of Commerce, and they wanted to use the money for the repairs of the Justice Complex in Barbuda, and it's back and forth, that was not acceptable. And the crux of it, for him, Mr. Morgan, that is, and his foundation, is that that money never reached Barbuda. Now, my question is, if I didn't say anything, notwithstanding that Mr. Morgan has been on this for 6 years, since 2017, he has been back and forth with emails, letters, he's met with the Prime Minister personally. If I didn't say anything on the Wednesday of last week, which I could have done in October, I could have done that in October, but I said, let me give the benefit of the doubt to the Ministry of Finance and see what the situation was, and I did that. But had I not said anything, would this thing still would be under the carpet? Would this still the results of this, would anything have happened? And I'm forced to conclude that it would have just been a silent matter until maybe an explosion from the Stephen Morgan Foundation. So I think that it has demonstrated to me that this government is very disingenuous, and the people of Barbuda has suffered more than the public knows, because clearly, these monies never reached us. And the second thing I discovered on Wednesday is that, and I'm going to get that information as well so that I can speak empirically about that. But I was informed as well by a member of the government that Spain gave the government, not made available, gave the government $550 million via a diplomat for the relief efforts in Barbuda. And as far as I know, from where I sit as the chairman of the finance committee in the Barbuda Council, and as a member of Barbuda Council, and as the member of parliament for Barbuda, I'm not aware that we have ever received any of that money that apparently was given via diplomat for the relief efforts in Barbuda. So
550 million?
No, 550,000 US.
Okay.
Yeah,
550,000.
Yeah. So, my conclusion is, what else is out there? What else are we missing? I mean, is this the end of it? Is this all? Or are there more? And the question that I posed to the Prime Minister in the Parliament is that it is very unparliamentary that you would have a situation where you have a catastrophic storm affecting the island or parts of the island, and you're asking for $250 million for the efforts, because that's what he said it's going to take, roughly. And you have not given an audited account, or any account at all, management account, to the Parliament as to what you've collected and how those monies are spent. And based on the revelations of the Stephen Morgan Foundation and what I'm hearing about the monies from Spain, I can see why he's very reluctant to do that.
What do you know about Global Bank of Commerce?
Well, again, I understand that the Global Bank of Commerce has liquidity issues. But my question is, if that is the case, then why did they instruct the Stephen Morgan Foundation to put monies into that bank? So I don't have all the details about the bank, but clearly there's a situation. I know it's an offshore bank as well, and I know who runs it, but the details are very interesting because clearly deliberate, and this, one attorney told me that they can't even be a lawsuit from this, because deliberately misleading people, especially when it comes to funds and trust funds and charitable funds and so on, is a very grave offense. Very grave.
What role does Andrew Stewart Young play at the Global Bank of Commerce?
Could you say that again?
Andrew Stewart Young. What role does he play at Global Bank of
Well,
Commerce?
I understand he's the head honcho there. He's also the Chinese ambassador to China as well from Antigua. But my understanding is he's the head honcho at the Global Bank of Commerce. The other thing that is interesting is that I think our CIP funds flows through that bank, or part of it flows through that bank as well. So I'm a bit confused if that is the case, that we would have our CIP funds or part of those funds flowing through that bank, which is millions of dollars a year. Why is it so difficult for the government to ensure that the $1 million is properly appropriated? The whole thing is very sketchy, and I described it as a very kung fu thing when I spoke about the dogs and the cats and so on, because it's very sketchy to me.
So what are you going to do about it?
Well, clearly, I mean, he said, I haven't seen the cabinet press briefing, but I was told that Honorable Alfred Nicholas said that the government will make the monies available for the purpose it was intended to. But I can tell you that based on the information I have, that if those monies are not made available, then the next step that could lead to legal actions, not limited to, is being considered. Because clearly, even if you have billionaires and so on, these type of funds that are donated, they're donated on a certain premise, a certain legal channel where certain things must be reported, and they're tax-free funds, and there's all sorts of implications on the other side. And that is why my understanding is that the members of the foundation are extremely upset about this matter. So my own thing is, again, not speaking empirically, but if those funds are not, if things are not made right, I believe that certain other actions, to include but not limited to legal actions, might be coming on this matter.
So if the Prime Minister is saying that the money is caught up in the Global Bank of Commerce that is presently going through liquidation, he's going to make this $1 million available to Barbuda. Where will this $1 million be coming from?
Well, that's a good question. And that's a good question. And he alone can answer that question. I can tell you the Barbuda Council, given this revelation again, we're going to call for an inquiry on this matter, a full investigation. At least let us know how much money the people of Antigua and Barbuda deserves to know how much money was collected after Hurricane Irma for the benefit of Barbuda when it comes to the recovery. You cannot just flippantly throw that aside when you would have said things like 1.5 million was spent on the repairs of the hostel and 3 million was spent to clean up the place. We're running a country and the government must be accountable to the people. And so I don't think Antiguans and Barbudans, especially Barbudans, accept the fact that, we're just hearing words and talks and not being able to see, especially for me, some sort of accounting of what took place.
Every time the Prime Minister has to respond to something regarding yourself, he basically says, if I can put it in layman's terms, that you're living a good life in Barbuda. You have your business, you have everything that's there. I'm not sure why there's an echo when I speak, but maybe it might be this feedback, because I see some people are saying that there's a feedback when I speak. So maybe you can turn on your volume. Or do you have two devices on? Or
No. I don't have two devices on, so I guess I can try and adjust my volume.
I don't know.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, because I'm hearing myself too. When I speak, I'm hearing myself too. Okay, so when you can try, when I'm speaking, maybe you can try to put me on mute. Let's see if that works.
Okay.
So you put me on mute. All right. All right. Hey, that works. So we can try it. You can hear me. We can try it like that, and then I'll just, think to you because the audience is getting the feedback. But I'll know when you're speaking. So I was gonna say, oh man, I really had like a help me. What was I going to say just now? What was I going to say just now? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, so I think you're saying something about the way the Prime Minister described me as being somebody.
Yes. Oh, that just gives me a whole brain freeze. All right, so I'll mute you from this end. It's okay. I'll mute you from this end, and then unmute, and then yeah. All right. Yes, so I was saying. Yes, it was. Sorry, guys. I was saying the way that the Prime Minister describes you every time he speaks about, the MP Trevor Walker for Barbuda, that, you're living the good life, you have a business, you're, the MP, you're in a comfortable position and you're just brainwashing the people of Barbuda to not embrace advancement and in the sense of the dollar per square foot for the land and many other examples he might have used to describe that you're stymieing progress for Barbudans because it benefits you and of course those who are participating in the council. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, so I think that's just a red herring. As a matter of fact, I think the Prime Minister is trying to make excuses. I live a very simple life. I live just like everybody else in Barbuda. As a matter of fact, today I was telling somebody that the house that I live in, I have lived in this house and built it and owned it before I even entered politics 20-something years ago. I worked in the private sector as a financial controller for many years, so I was doing very well. I'm a professional. I earned good money because, as I said, I'm qualified, and I worked there where I earned money and money that could build a nice home long before I came into politics. So I had my vehicle before I came into politics. So the only thing I had after a couple of years was a business, and that business was owned by two persons who I'm quite sure Barbudans know were two big Labour Party supporters and real persons who actually ran for the Labour Party MP seat in Barbuda, for the seat in Barbuda on the Labour Party ticket. So after they got old and so on, one of the guys came to me and said, listen, we have to sell this business because clearly, we cannot manage it anymore. So cut a long story short, that is how I got into that business. I didn't get into that business when I was in politics and just started business because I have connections and I could do something like that for myself, right? I got that business because they came to me, they wanted somebody to buy it. And they wanted it to remain in the hands of a Barbudan because there's, at that time, a few Syrians who were interested. And so I made myself available and I purchased that business. So I was never a person that looked at politics to create wealth for me, right? Because I just don't live like that. I live a very, as I said, straightforward life. And when it comes to Barbuda, all that I try to promote is the fact that the lands in Barbuda are not for sale and that this is how we survive in terms of our communal land ownership and the way, just like I built my home, other persons are doing the same thing, and we can have a decent, comfortable life on the island. So the Prime Minister tries to paint me that way because, yes, I'm a little more fortunate than a lot of persons. I managed to get an opportunity to go to the United States to study in the 80s. I was a teacher before I went to university. I did some things that, a little bit more fortunate than some persons. But I've never lost the touch in terms of where I came from and how to survive as a Barbudan with my people. So I think that narrative doesn't stick with the average person, because if it did, obviously I probably would not be in the position I'm in today. So that's just a red herring. But at the end of the day, my goal is, as a member of parliament for Barbuda and as a member of the Barbuda Council, is to ensure that opportunities are given to other Barbudans, just like what I got when I was growing up, and that we have the opportunity to have Barbuda as a communal land system where we don't end up in a situation where this class structure creates a huge barrier for us to access our resources as we can do now.
What has been your response regarding the Privy Council with John Mussington and Jackie Frank taking their case to the Privy Council? Because we're actually weeks away, or maybe days away, from a verdict, which would, either way this verdict goes, it will change the future for Barbudans and for other Caribbean individuals who would want to challenge their governments regarding the environment and other situations. So what's your position? What's your position and your support on this, and also the pushback and the bravado approach that Prime Minister Gaston Brown is dealing with the entire approach with the project?
Well, I mean, I must commend John Mussington and Jackie Frank as two ordinary Barbudans who decided to take their case to the Privy Council, all the way up to the Privy Council. And as you said, I mean, the case basically, in a nutshell, will decide whether or not ordinary citizens can challenge a government on certain issues. For example, the issue here is the airport being built on Barbuda, and whether or not an ordinary person can challenge the government doing that based on the fact that, one, certain laws weren't followed, two, certain international treaties were ignored, and three, as an ordinary person, if something that the government is doing will affect you in a negative way, as a nuisance or anything else, do you have that right legally to challenge them? So it's a very important case that I think will, again, set the precedent in the Caribbean, especially in this jurisprudence, for that situation. Clearly, if it goes the way we're hoping it goes in terms of the favor of John Mussington and Jackie Frank, it will definitely send a huge signal to the entire Caribbean as to the limitations of government, and not only that, but what rights does a citizen have to actually challenge these things. So I think it's going to have far-reaching implications, and it's going to be something that we'll watch as well. In fact, we're watching and waiting for that judgment on a daily basis.
I know that Barbudans are challenging. 1 second. I know that Barbudans are challenging the Barbuda Airport project, but what's the position of the Barbuda Council and members of the Barbuda Council regarding this particular project, participating with the government, participating with the PLH, etc.?
But I mean, the airport project came under very weird circumstances. Even the PLH project. We go back to after we were taken to Antigua after Hurricane Irma. I mean, while we were in Antigua, you had huge equipment on the island, clearing forestry and, trying to get stuff for PLH ready and so on, while the ordinary citizen could not come back here and stay here overnight, because we were only given a window, for example, I think from about 9 to about 2 to come on the island for a couple of hours and do whatever we had to do and get back to Antigua. So we found it very strange that during that time you had huge development taking place without the consent of the people and knowledge of the people, vis-a-vis the airport and part of the PLH project which they started. So for us, I mean, we have always maintained and still maintain that, we are the primary beneficiaries of Barbuda, and nothing should take place on this island without the consent and also communicating with the people and the council, right? So I think the government erred, notwithstanding that, I think it was deliberate, because the Prime Minister's approach is that the Barbuda Council and the people of Barbuda are kind of substandard to his government and the central government. And I just want to interject here that persons should understand that Antigua and Barbuda is a unitary democratic state with a constitutional order that we were given in 1980, right, coming into effect in 1981. And that constitutional order specifically have Barbuda local government as the Barbuda Council embedded in that as the primary source of local government on Barbuda. As a matter of fact, it goes further to say that local government cannot be altered in Section 123 of the Constitution unless the council itself agrees to it. So I always say it's, use an example like, we go to Parliament all the time to pass laws and to amend laws, but there's one law that the central government cannot go to Parliament to amend, and that is the Barbuda Local Government Act, which is also entrenched in the Constitution, Section 123. All right, and that act gave the Barbuda Council in Section 18 exclusive authority. In other words, authority outside of the government. For example, if the Barbuda Council decided to take on an agricultural project on Barbuda, we don't have to get the permission from central government. The cabinet cannot direct us. For example, if the council decides to do anything in health, whether hire doctors or whatever we have to do, as long as we are within the license ambit, we don't have to listen to the central government. We have exclusive authority on the health, exclusive authority on the agriculture, and we also have exclusive authority when it comes to building and maintaining of roads on the island. All right. So, the council is a very powerful organization. It sounds like for people that the council is just this local body that, we elected every 2 years and so on. But, unlike Antigua, the council can do things that the government cannot tell us anything about.
I'm basically trying to understand what sort of relationship the Barbuda Council members themselves participate, whether with the PLH, whether with any of the business that is happening in Barbuda. What's the participation? What's your involvement? I know that you're saying, the document says this, but we know otherwise, just as according to Parliament, when you're supposed to, the Prime Minister is supposed to provide a budget and give the opposition 7 days to deliberate and research, that doesn't happen. It didn't happen, so whatever the stipulations are for Barbuda and what the Barbuda Council can do, Prime Minister Gaston Brown does not follow that. So at the moment, what is the position? What's the kind of work relationship? What's happening between the members of Barbuda Council and the work and the advancement that's going on in Barbuda? Because the projects are going on. The airport is happening, roads are being built, things are happening in Barbuda. What's the position and the relationship for the Barbuda Council?
Well, when it comes to the projects and what's happening in Barbuda, I mean, we have a very rocky relationship with a lot of the investors here. And I want to start there because those investors came here, were sent here without any sort of consultation and approval of the council. PLH, for example, let's start with PLH. PLH, we have serious issues with a lot of things that's happening with them. We had issues in even creating a dialogue with PLH because over the years, we were not really dialoguing with them because they refused at one time to allow us to even see what the property looks like, all right? So in recent times, what we have decided to do is to collect our taxes while at the same time not giving up on those issues, for example, the environmental issues and the other issues that exist when it comes to the operation and existence in Barbuda, in terms of selling real estate, in terms of Barbuda Council not receiving anything. What we have done in the last year and a half or so is we're able to get them now, via legal means, to pay us our ABST to the Barbuda Council, because the law says that ABST that is generated in Barbuda must be paid to the Barbuda Council. And so we've managed to get them to do that. The project that they're doing, for example, at Parliamentary Point, position is still the same. The Barbuda Council does not support 400 homes being built on that sandbar. We do not support the fact that a golf course is going to have serious issues with our livelihood and with the whole situation and environment. And we are still, those issues are still alive. Clearly, we have to make sure that we allow ourselves to get some finality on those issues. I know there's a litigation pending on especially that Parliamentary Point situation, but in my own view, I think we need to beef that up, maybe get more lawyers involved, which I think we will probably do this year, and to ensure that we get to a point where we can get Barbuda on the best path for our people, right? But in terms of our livelihood, in terms of what's happening with them now, we're trying to make sure we collect our monies and ensure that they pay to us as per the law.
So how has that been going, and for how long? One second. How has that been going, and for how long that's been happening? How have you been able to manage the ABST that's been paid in? And is there any interference from central government? Is there any stipulations to make certain payments or deposits? According to this leaked document, from the 1st of January here in Antigua, I guess Antigua Barbuda, across all statutory bodies, 50% of those profits must be paid in. With regards to your ABST being collected in Barbuda and being paid to the Barbuda Council tax, has any of those monies being distributed, delivered anywhere else, given to any other project? What's the position there?
Well, we're always of the view that PLH is not paying us what they're supposed to pay us. They do pay us some ABST, but we're of the view that that is not the amount that they should pay us. That's just, especially sitting as the chair of finance for the council, we feel that we're shortchanged. And one of the things that we've reached out to Inland Revenue for is for an inspection, because Inland Revenue does have the power to ensure that those records are examined and, you know, do some reconciliation. So we've reached out to them to see whether or not they can lend some assistance to us to make sure that Barbuda Council is collecting what it should collect as a local government. I can say I heard the Prime Minister's remarks in terms of 50% of government corporations, etc., statutory corporations, paying monies to the consolidated fund. But that does not include the council, cannot include the council, based on our constitutional arrangement. And so we're not necessarily worried or bothered by that. But what, on the other hand, interests us is the fact that we need to ensure that whatever is due to us is being paid to us. I'll give you an example. After we came back from Antigua in 2017, all our taxes were being paid in Antigua. So we came back here. There was a hotel operating called Barbuda Bell. They paid the ABST to Antigua. The famous Nubu restaurant that is so infamous was paying its ABST to Antigua. So we found ourselves in a situation where we could not meet our financial obligations, not even to our workers, because at one time, as I said, we racked up arrears to our weekly workers 43 weeks and monthly paid persons to 5 months. So we found that situation existing. So we had to engage legal counsel and write to these organizations, pointing out what the law is to allow them to start paying the monies to the Barbuda Council. And so we did that with Barbuda Bell, we did that with Nubu and all the others. And it took some time, but I can say that they are now paying us. So it was not an easy ride. I think that looking back at this whole journey, we were in a position where I think the strategy was to starve us into submission. Because how can we come back to Barbuda, as we did in 2017, operate the Barbuda Council that is supposed to provide sanitary services, maintaining roads, maintaining public buildings, the basic services in Barbuda in terms of collecting certain things for driver's license and that kind of thing, when you don't have a revenue base. You understand? So we came back, no revenue base, can't pay our people, can't provide any services, and I am of the view that was deliberate. And so the Barbuda Council didn't sit down. Unlike what some people think in terms of how we operate and our kind of laissez-faire, kind of, relaxed mode, we were busy trying to ensure that we rebuild our revenue base in Barbuda. And I'm happy, and I must commend my colleagues for really standing with, for us standing together and ensuring that that was done. So after we started collecting our revenues and doing certain things, it got us to a point today, as I mentioned on Thursday night, that we have reduced our raise to weekly paid staff from 43 weeks to 6 weeks, and from 5 months for our monthly paid staff to 1 month. And we have also started providing certain other services, etc., that we are supposed to be provided. So, it has been a tough journey, notwithstanding the PLHs, etc. But the people of Barbuda are very resilient. And so, people understand that.
So does the Barbuda Council support this big vision that Prime Minister Gaston Brown has for Barbuda, where at least one of the homes that would be sold would be going for $50 million US, or how much ever million US dollars? If you're talking about the ABST from these businesses being paid to the Barbuda Council, you would benefit from this. So does the Barbuda Council support the projects?
Absolutely not. And that's the other side of us in terms of supporting that sort of huge real estate program. Our situation is money is not all of it, right? Yes, we have to collect our taxes. And yes, we should not be duped in any way when it comes to the collection of our taxes. But we do not support that huge real estate market that the Prime Minister is creating in Barbuda, the Jumbo and steroids. No, we don't. All right? We don't see ourselves on an island with that type of stuff happening. And so the vision, to be very frank with you, the Prime Minister's vision and that of his government is contrast to that of the Barbudan people. Yes, and I want to make this very clear. We do support development because we have to have development in order for us to sustain ourselves. But the question is, what type of development? Are we going to support a development model that in the next 10 years, we end up to be minority in our own country? In the next 10 years, we end up not having any proper lands in our country for our children. In 10 years from now, we end up in a situation where we don't control our own country. And as a sitting member, I won't be sitting member forever, but as a sitting member of parliament, absolutely not. So we, again, in Barbuda, and that is why elections after elections, you can tell what the result will be and see what the result is, are diametrically opposed, right? The Prime Minister's vision and the vision that we have are mutually exclusive.
So what are your plans? What are the next plans? What are you going to do to change it? The Barbudans do not agree with regards to the Barbuda airport, but the airport is still being built. Barbuda does not agree with the PLH project, but the PLH project is still happening. Barbuda does not agree with the Prime Minister selling Barbuda's land, but just according to the cabinet notes, they're supposed to be meeting with the registrar for Antigua to decide with regards to the lands of Barbuda and start selling lands in Barbuda. So what are you going to do about it? What is the Barbuda Council and the Barbudans going to do about it?
Well, let me just say is that everything we can say what we're going to do, but I can tell you this, starting from the back end, that selling land in Barbuda is not as easy as the Prime Minister, he talks. It's like he said in the Parliament, I said it, at the end of December, I think 30 private jets or 20 private jets will be landing in Barbuda. Well, for you to have an airport and for private jets, international jets to land on an airport, you have to have certain things approved. ICAO have to approve it. You have to have international approvals from certain agencies and so on, FAA, whatever, and even from our local Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation Authority, all right? So if you don't have those things, which they don't have, then how can you land a jet? We're now in January. So when he speaks about, for example, land will be sold, I think in the first quarter or something like that, there's several things that has to go in place before that can happen. And so I'm not worried, I'm concerned because he's on that path and eventually clearly, if you stay on the path long enough, you'll get to the destination, right? But we are very strategic, and we know what we want to do, and we will engage the different strategies that we have to engage to ensure that our lands are not sold. So, we're not moved. We're very prepared, and we'll do what we need to do in terms of having those things
Last
regular.
sorry about that.
Mhm.
Last Saturday, I had John Mussington on, and I told him, or I asked him, that I've heard or in the grapevine that the old airstrip or the local airstrip that you have, there's some form of conversation of them moving that airstrip and moving all the approvals and whatever the necessary would go with that, and pass it on to the new airport or move it over to the new airport to get things going and to some extent short circuit the process. Did you hear of that, and is that true?
Well, I'm hearing it now, but I can tell you from my experience in Parliament that cannot happen and it cannot work. All right, because you're talking about an airport that Prime Minister said is going to accommodate international flights in terms of private jets coming directly to Barbuda. All right, there need to be certain approvals. Certain approvals must be given before that can happen from ICAO and from other international organizations that inspects these things for that to happen. All right, so I am not worried about those talks again because that's just talk in terms of handing the approvals over. It doesn't work that way. I mean, remember this airport was built on crevices and caves and all those type of things. You know, the whole story of the environmental stuff and all that. So clearly, international organizations like ICAO is not going to just allow planes to land on something without doing inspections and giving approvals to certain agencies for that to happen. So again, that's just chatter and talk. And as far as I'm concerned, again, they're on a path to getting where they want to get, but they're not there. And for us, it's just a matter how we strategize and deal with the situation going forward.
Okay. I see some questions here, and I asked that question regarding the airport, but I see that here on our chat list or chat board, message board. Another question here is, what is your strategy, Trevor, for fisheries, for agriculture, for tourism, for entrepreneurialism? This should be able to roll off an MP's tongue. That's a
Mhm.
comment here by someone.
Mhm. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things, and I just start here, I mean, one of the things we're doing is to try and rebuild Barbuda's administration. One of the things that we have done in recent times is to hire a new CEO of the council. I mean, I think we did that. She started working on the 4th of December, trying to rebuild that whole organization, strengthen it, make it more efficient and more productive. And so, we're starting there. And one of the things we're going to do with the council is to ensure that we come up with a strategic plan and some priorities as to how we move forward to include, which the question is very on point, ensuring that our fisheries and the productive sectors are really buoyant and up and running, and to empower Barbudans to make sure that they're in a position to take advantage of all opportunities. So that is something that we're dealing with, we're working on, and something that we realize has to happen. And the plan for those things are really integrated in the way forward in terms of how we roll out the strategy this year. And so I can say, categorically that we should see a new Barbuda, a different approach to Barbuda Council this year. As I said, I'm very optimistic with the new CEO that we have. She's well trained. She's a Barbudan. She lived overseas in Antigua for a long time. A lot of experience in different credit unions and law offices and so on. And so I'm confident that we're going to have a different direction in terms of how we actually channel certain resources and get the people on board to be more productive and live a better life on the island.
Okay. Your presentation at the People's Parliament got a lot of great reviews. Um, what's your position going forward? What sort of response you're expecting from the Prime Minister and his government? And what is your action plan? I mean, you said that the budget is a bogus budget. Um, we have this situation with this 1 million US dollars that is now up in the air, and we're having all these emails back and forth to show that whatever the answer we're getting now is not really matching with the no, we're not on mute. Somebody's saying mute. Oh, I'm supposed to mute. Sorry, I forgot. Thank you, hon. To mute on your end so we don't get the feedback. Yes. So I was basically asking you. You said that we have a bogus budget. We've received the bogus budget. You're known for your investigations and bringing information to the fore. What's your next step? As in, what are you expecting from the prime minister, especially with regards to this situation? And when I asked you earlier about, what's going to happen with the investigation, you mentioned legal actions on behalf of Mr. Steve Morgan himself, but I didn't feel a passion coming from you of you being very disturbed by this particular situation, you being over it, quote unquote, and being moved or motivated to make something happen from this, or to really get something to shake from this. How do you respond to that?
Let me start from the budget first, because I said the budget is bogus because that's based on my own analysis. And if you listen, Richard Lewis, the member for Rural West, you would realize that he was saying time and time again, well, how are they going to do this when this is what's left? And this doesn't add up because, the figures are saying one thing and it's just not making any sense. Well, one of the things that I noticed in the budget, for example, and I looked at the debt stock, which I think he said was about 3.8 billion, and 600 million of that is statutory debt or other debt. And then he spoke about the whole question of the debt to GDP ratio, etc. Now, one of the things that is quite interesting is that he's not taking into consideration any of the contingent liabilities that I mentioned in terms of the airport loan, APO, etc., etc. So if the government, and this is just a layman's situation, if the government decides to use all the statutory corporations, all right, to borrow money, APOA, state insurance, medical benefits, and the port, and so on, to borrow $2 billion, right? Just a layman thing. They're not even listed in the budget as contingent liabilities. So you're telling me that if that happens, then our fiscal situation is still the same? In other words, that it doesn't affect the debt stock of our country? Because that is what basically is happening now in terms of how he records debt, all right? Notwithstanding the fact that none of those debts can be approved without the government being a guarantor or signing off on them. But yet still, because they were listed before. And let me say on the UPP, those debts are always listed. But now those contingent liabilities are not listed. So if somebody gets very smart and cheeky, you just borrow everything through the statutory corporation. Just borrow money through them and guarantee them. And then you'll say your debt stock for central government is still, we didn't borrow any money because it's not central government. That makes no sense to me. All right? And I say that specifically because it was never done that way. All right? These debts should be recorded as contingent liabilities in the estimate to show that if they default, that the central government must pick up the payments. For example, the Prime Minister was asked the question, why hasn't the port repaid any monies on the loan? And what his answer was that they have cash flow issues. And so central government was the one that had to make the payments. So if that is the case, then why is it not a part of your fiscal picture for fiscal year, right? So I say all of that to say that when I say it's bogus, all right, it is just not done properly. It's just not right. And the situation, for example, with Steve Morgan, I mean, I don't think I could have been more passionate about it than Thursday night. As a matter of fact, I'm still winding down. And what we have decided to do with that, but notwithstanding legal action, is to force the government to answer the question about what has happened to the money and make sure that the money is properly appropriated. All right. And so I'm not sure if you heard the chairman of the council. One of the things he said is that we're going to write to the Governor General. We will write to him. And not only to allow that money to get some transparency on that money, but also to look at the bigger picture as to what else might be out there. All right. So that is what we're doing. I mean, I'm in constant communication with Mr. Morgan in terms of his end and so on. I mean, again, bearing in mind, Honorable Melford Nicholas did say that they're going to make the monies available. All right. So we have to bear that in mind too. But they say a lot of things and never honor it. So I still stand on the premise that the budget is not a true reflection of what the fiscal situation is in Antigua. That's just my view. A lot of cut and paste is in there. And I think that, again, not bashing the technicians in the Ministry of Finance, I think the Prime Minister tries to paint a picture that is definitely reflective as to what the situation is on the ground.
It took Mr. Steve Morgan 6 years, 4 months, and 14 days, and he still has not received that money. Honorable Melford Nicholas on Thursday said that they will make the money available to Barbuda. Do you really believe that? Honorable Trevor Walker, you think that you have more influence than 6 years, 4 months, and 14 days of emails, back and forth calls, meetings in persons, etc.?
I'm muted. Oh yeah. So I don't think I have more influence, but the difference is that this story is a very serious one. And secondly, the information is there, all right, to show that the story is not bogus or the story was not made up. So I think the pressures, because what really will happen here, if this matter is not resolved, I don't think that fund will ever give to Antigua and Barbuda in any circumstance, whether it's disaster or otherwise, any sort of support. All right. So he not only risked that, but he also risked the fact that now it's in the public domain. Other charities and other organizations are going to look at this government as being a rogue government because, hey, we give you money or make monies available to you, but they never reach the intended purpose for what, 6 years? I mean, they're not going to trust the Prime Minister. So you know what happens in the end? The people of Antigua and Barbuda will suffer. And this time, I mean, it's Barbuda in the sense that the hurricane hit Barbuda. But God forbid, it was Antigua or a hurricane hit Antigua, which has over 100,000 people. So the Prime Minister and the government must sort this matter out, because if they don't, it is going to have negative implications on the way forward when it comes to any sort of donor agency, any sort of trust fund, any sort of charity making monies available to Antigua and Barbuda. And when it comes to Barbuda, we're going to go to the ends to ensure that that money is remitted to us.
Earlier, you said that the council is going to write a letter to the Governor General.
Yes.
You said that the council is going to write a letter to the Governor General regarding this matter to get some action. I remember watching the presentation, I think it was last year, just after I was watching Parliament, just after the uproar with regards to Antigua Airways, the individuals drowning in St. Kitts water, and yourself and Honorable Jamal Pringle were asking questions regarding an inquiry to the Antigua Airways, and the manner in which the Prime Minister spoke to yourself and to Honorable Trevor Walker, where he basically barked and stated that there will be no inquiry, and I said there will be none, like basically to say, well, this is it, this is the final word. With that approach, that type of leadership style, what's your plan to really secure Barbuda's future, really secure the very essence of Barbuda and the desires of the Barbudan people, and not that of Prime Minister Gaston Brown and his administration?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we have to do is to fight strategically. And I think the more he tries to punch, yes, he punches hard with that whole situation of not allowing an inquiry. Yes, and we felt it, and it was something that, we wished had gone otherwise. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop. You see, we must get to a point, and I think this might just very well be that push that staggers him. All right, we must get to a point where we're consistent and that we go through the channels, because clearly, I mean, we have to ensure that we exhaust certain avenues when it comes to trying to deal with some of these issues. All right, this issue is a bit different because this issue has the person who's responsible for the foundation on the same side as the Barbudans, as myself and the Barbudans, in terms of, yes, I gave this money. Yes, this money was deposited into the Global Bank of Commerce. Yes, you instructed me to put that money into the Global Bank of Commerce instead of ACB or instead of First Caribbean. And you knew that there would have been issues. And I am saying, as Steve Morgan, the chairman of the foundation, that we need to resolve this matter. And you know what? I'm going to involve the Member of Parliament for Barbuda and his council to make sure that we can put pressure on you, the government, to make do good with the situation. So I think this is a bit different. And when it comes to money, again, especially charitable funds, right? This is a very serious matter. Very, very serious. And I don't see it the same way as the anti-gay ways, how flippantly you can deal with this. I think this one has serious, serious implications on the way forward with Antigua and Barbuda. So we're strategically doing what we have to do, but we're going to get to a point where something must give.
I understand that. Put you on mute. With regards to moving forward for the Barbuda and the Privy Council verdict, during the Privy Council, one of the lords basically suggested, or the conversation came about, where if it come to a point where they needed to rip up the Barbuda airport and do the project again, they didn't say that would be their verdict. They're saying if they should come to that type of decision, or should they have that type of conversation. The Prime Minister rebutted on his radio station the following Saturday, or the same Saturday, basically stating that how many $70 million has been spent with regards to the Barbuda airport. And he's basically asking who would rebuild the airport. Would the Privy Council do it? Would John Mussington do it? Would, the lawyers and those who are participating, refund that money? The monies that are being put into the Barbuda airport and into the PLH and into the development of Barbuda, where exactly is that money coming from? And does the Barbuda Council, I'm trying to find out if the Barbuda Council has done any sort of investigations to see if there's any connection between any of our government ministers and any of these businesses or these investors, any kind of negotiation with investors in Barbuda regarding the land and the business that's going on in Barbuda. You were mentioning, and the reason why I'm asking that is regarding the 15 acres of land that the Prime Minister initially, according to the documents, you stated 15 acres of land, then 35 acres, and then you mentioned an 85 acres.
Well, I mean, the whole the whole premise of this government, especially, is real estate seems to be what the economy is built on, which is very, very interesting. The Prime Minister's wife and Prime Minister's wife's father got a lease from the Barbuda Council in 2015. Now, I think in 2007, that same Dulcina lease, I think it's 2007, I stand corrected, maybe a little earlier, that lease was given before that to one Winston Derrick, your former boss. So they had the lease, right? We were trying to get that lease back because, nothing was happening at that particular hotel, beach site. And so we negotiated with Mr. Derrick. I did it myself with, I think, then Minister Aziz Hadid, because he was part of the cabinet. And we paid Mr. Derrick 300,000 EC dollars to get that lease back. So we got that lease back again. I don't remember the year, it could be 2006, 2007. And so we presented that lease back to the Barbuda Council because it was leased to Mr. Derrick. And we said, listen, you're not doing anything. We need to get it back so we can properly develop the property. And we paid him $300,000. That lease was for 15.1 acres to be exact. So that was the lease. It was 15.1 acres of land in Barbuda. When I went to Parliament, I think in 2018 or 2019, I think, because I won the election in 2018. I was researching, because doing a lot of research, and I came across the same Dulcina lease. And that lease that I saw, which I have in my possession, is for 30 acres of land. So I asked myself, how is it possible that 15.1 acres of land, to be exact, because I did the transaction myself with Mr. Derrick in terms of ensuring that through the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Mr. Hesse at the time, and I think Mr. Camacho, worked all those paperwork and so on, got all those paperwork together so we can actually effect the transfer back to the council. So I was flabbergasted when I came across that particular lease for 30 acres of land. So, that baffled me. Fast forward now to the budget statement that was read in December. And when I got the budget statement, as a matter of fact, in Parliament, it was actually read when the Prime Minister presented the budget. The same property is now 85 acres of land. All right? So, and that's why I say the budget is bogus, huh? Because, I don't see any legal document to show how the Dulcina property moved from 15.1 acres to 85 acres. As a matter of fact, the surrounding lands around the Dulcina area are already occupied by Barbudans, and Barbudans are actually building on those lands. And for the Dulcina property to actually expand to accommodate 85 acres would literally mean that those properties that persons are building on right now must be included in the particular in that particular amount for 85 acres. So the question is the Prime Minister and the government saying that River Road, because I'm quite sure I don't know if you remember River Road, Nikki, that leads down to the dock, has to be relocated, and you're going to take at least another 50 acres of land, which includes persons' properties and properties that persons have homes on, well, they're building homes on, and take those lands away from them to give it to the Prime Minister's wife and his father and her father. All right? So these are serious questions. And I can say categorically here, Nikki, that as a member of Parliament for Barbuda, supported unanimously by the council, that we will not allow that to happen. Yes.
If the council had approved 15.1 acre, who in the council or who was a part of the council then to approve 30 acres, and who as a part of the council or which member from the council approved the 85 acres?
And that is a very good question, because I know for sure that I've checked the minutes for the Barbuda Council, those that we could find since the Hurricane Irma passed, and there is no such minute of the council reflecting 85 acres of land to the Dulcina property, for the Dulcina property. All right? So the question is, how did they come across it? And I would love to see the lease. At least I have the lease for the one that gives them 30 acres. I have that in my possession. How they got that is another story, but I have that. But in terms of 85 acres, there's no such legal document for that. And as I said before you cut in the Nikki, is that we are very resolute on the fact that we're not going to allow. And I make the distinction here because we've been fighting for a very long time when it comes to land in Barbuda. And for example, the Privy Council and other places, Privy Council, we were talking about 140 acres at Paradise Found that myself and Mr. Frank had nothing on. It's like vacant land. So Privy Council basically said, Mr. Walker and Mr. Frank, you have nothing on the land, and definitely based on what their judgment, as we all know, they ruled against us. But Nikki, this is different, right? This is very different. And we are not going to allow Gaston Brown and his government to come to Barbuda and dislocate Barbudans because of a land grab. People say I fight soft and I'm so on, but this is where the rubber hits the road, right? When you're going to say to a Barbudan, listen, see that house you have there? You're going to have to move it, or we're going to have to relocate you. That is where the rubber will hit the road.
But it happened in Booby Alley.
Booby Alley is Booby Alley, right? Booby Alley is Booby Alley. And I don't know what the situation is there, but Booby Alley is Booby Alley. When it comes to Barbuda, all right, this is going to be the first test of telling a Barbudan that after 300 years, our ancestors that occupied this little paradise, that you're going to come now and say after 300 years, that house you're building there, it has to be removed and you have to go somewhere else. Then we're going to see who real Barbudans are. And that's all I'll say about that. All right?
There's a question here that says, how can the council do anything when Gaston Brown try everything to block the council and try to let them look bad?
Well, and that is perfectly correct. But look what he's done to us since 2017. We've been called all sorts of names, from deracinated imbeciles to inbreeders to whatever. And we came back to Barbuda. He decided to slash our budget in half, knowing we needed it the most, because we didn't have homes. Some of our vehicles were destroyed, and we didn't have our farms, or animals were destroyed. So we needed it most. But he said, you know what? I'm going to do like what the Pharaoh did to the to the Israelites. I'm going to tell you to make bricks without straws. In other words, we're going to break you. So he did that. Cut our budget. We had serious hard times. Took us over a year to restore electricity. Had school in the church under a tent. Huge problems. Didn't have a bank. Couldn't do banking transactions on this island for over a year. And we survived. You understand? We went to elections. You remember in 2018, Nikki, the Prime Minister and the government said that the Barbudans must go to Antigua to vote. You remember that?
I remember.
And we went to Antigua to vote. And we had to pay our own way, Nikki. We had to pay our own way. So I said to myself that we're going to lose this election because the Barbudans are not going to go over there in a boat to vote and so on or whatever. But that was one of the moments I'll never forget. We had elderly people who couldn't walk. Well, you remember the situation, Nikki, who made sure that they went over there and voted against Gaston Brown and the government. Paid their way. You understand? We had to charter excellence. It cost us over $20,000. We had to pull up a $5 here, and we did it. I remember the fishing boats, Devon Warner and other people, 6, 7 people going over on the long stretch to vote. And so when I look at our people, Nikki, I love our people so much because we are resilient, as I said, and we would make sure we do whatever is required to protect Barbuda at all times.
Certainly. There's a little area I want to touch. It's a bit touchy, so we're gonna walk a little bit on eggshells here because let's see. Paul Ned passed away. I knew Paul quite well. Let's just say your thoughts on Paul, and we see where the conversation goes from there. Anything else, we can have that conversation off air because, he's not here to defend himself or to come on the platform and rebut. Rest in peace, my brother, Paul Ned. He's not here to come and he's not able to come and rebut anything. So anything else from this, we'll have off air. I'll respect him that much.
What I would like to say with Paul Ned is that, Paul Ned was a personal friend. Paul Ned and I grew up together. We went to school together, as I said, we played cricket together. We did a lot of things together. We were same age in terms of, well, not same age exactly, but same age group. And he was a personal friend, notwithstanding the situation with him. I think that he was a good person. Paul Ned, I don't know if you remember when we were protesting against PLH, Paul Ned was one of them that got arrested.
Of course.
Right? So, he was a person that I revered in terms of what I knew personally he stood for. Because as I said, as small boys, before I went to university in the 80s, Paul Ned and I and a few others always defended what I'm defending now. Always. We were little boys and we always thought that we were taken advantage of. Myself and Paul Ned excelled in sports, and at that time we could not get to play intramural sports because at that time the government of the day didn't allow us to play We couldn't accept scholarships because at that time of the day, Barbuda can't get no scholarship to go anywhere and do anything. So we had a very hard time, and in those days, we had a very hard time. I remember one time they let us into the parish league cricket, and we had to pay our way with everything and try the thing. Eventually, we got thrown out, and so it wasn't very easy. So I knew Paul in a different way. I knew what was inside of him in terms of what he stood for. All right. Over time, obviously, he made different other choices in terms of what he had to do. But in remembering him, I remember those days when Paul Ned was like me, a person that defended Barbuda and defend what Barbuda stood for, and always had that ambitious thought. And it came through for us that we'd leave Barbuda. In this case, I went to the United States and he went to the UK to better ourselves, to become more educated, to allow ourselves to be able to contribute to Barbuda in a more positive way after we've educated ourselves and come back home. And, those are the things that I remember of Paul.
We leave it there, For a very, very personal reason, we'll definitely
Yes.
leave it there, I really want to thank you this evening. I want to know if there's anything that you'd like to leave with us, anything else you'd like to say on our platform tonight. It's been a really good discussion. It's really revealing to see what the situation is after 6 years, 4 months, and 14 days of Hurricane Irma, knowing what it was like, how it was, knowing how many nations poured into us. Sorry, guys, let me mute. Sorry. Knowing how many nations poured into us. We got donations coming from all directions. Antiguans stepped up when Barbudans had to be transferred or transported to Antigua. Many people came together. Many people came together. So I can understand, or we can understand, Steve Morgan's persistence in his donation going where it is expected to go, where he intended for it to go. I sent the Prime Minister a message this afternoon, inviting him on the platform also here on Phoenix Free Press, not only to speak about this $1 million US, but to speak about his 1 year anniversary of his third term, and I'll give you an opportunity, Honorable Trevor Walker, to give your closing comments, but I'll also ask you to grade the government in the third term, 1 to 5, 5 being excellent and 1 being absolutely so I'll give you an opportunity to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nikki, let me just say that, it was a pleasure being here tonight. And, it's just that the Barbuda situation is not an easy one. It has been a struggle that many persons before me have fought, including Eric Burton, Sahilbone Frank. I mean, it's not easy. And then you have a situation, for example, where the 17% tax is placed on the backs of us, which will be compounded to a point where we're going to pay much more than Antigua, based on the fact that we have to go through these different channels to get stuff here to Barbuda logistically. So it's not easy. And, sometimes you wonder how we survive as a people based on the fact that, the Constitution speaks to us as a unitary state, and we don't access the same services in Antigua that the normal person can access. And if we do access them, it's at a premium. Right? So it's not easy. And for Barbudans, we are hoping one of these days we can have a government that understands this, and a government that put things in place to ensure that we're not disenfranchised or disadvantaged in any way. So I just want to again commend us as a people for being strong, for allowing ourselves to survive, and for being the persons and people who we are as a nation. I'm very proud to be a Barbudan. When I come to Antigua, I'm very proud to say I was born in Barbuda. I say I was born there, I went to school there, I only went to the United States when I went to university. And when I went to university, I didn't go to the Antigua State College. I went straight from Holy Trinity School and I went straight to university in the States. You did that? I said, yeah, and other people too. So we do have bright people here. We have people here who can be compared to everybody as Antigua. So a lot of people kind of not really know some of our history, etc. And so I wear that badge very proudly, not as a personal, not for personal edification, but just to show the world that, we do have, like the Bible say, can anything good come out of Nazareth? But I can say, yes, good can come out of Barbuda, right? In terms of grading the Prime Minister and the government, of course, I'm going to give them a failing grade. There's no doubt about that. I think what they've done in this budgetary cycle is to compound the situation, is to aggravate the situation, and to allow the people of Antigua to really Antigua and Barbuda to really conclude that they are not working in the best interest of the people. All right, not only the 17%, but entertainment tax, the fact that they don't even mention anything about increased compliance, the fact that they want to cut certain discretionary concessions that do help the poor person and so on, and the fact that crime and other things like sports were never mentioned, the things that are auxiliary to ensure that you have a very potent life in terms of social and etc. etc. They don't care about those things. So I'm hoping that in short order that we'll have a change in government, and that especially us on this side, we'll see some huge relief coming out.
And greeting the government 1 year anniversary, one being absolutely atrocious, five being really great.
Absolutely atrocious, as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely. No services being provided, Nikki. A rise in Social Security. People are going to get, as a matter of fact, I said it, Nikki, in Barbuda alone, from the 1st of January, bread has increased by $1.50 across the board. So if you go and buy a bread for $1, at the 1st of January, it costs you $2.50. If you go and buy
bread, there's no butter and no cheese in there.
Well, exactly. So imagine if I like my little ham roll. I like my ham roll. So imagine I get some bread, butter, and ham roll. I'm paying a premium. All right. So imagine I buy a bigger bread like on the weekends. I have $10 bread. It costs me $11.50. So I cannot look at the government that has not done anything to help the people. And give them a grade other than the failing grade, especially at the first anniversary.
Certainly. And I did say that we were wrapping up with the last questions, but abstaining from the budget presentation, were you in agreement? I know that the opposition stayed away, but were you in full agreement, or you just stayed away because the other opposition members were staying away?
No, I was in agreement. I think we did the right thing. I think we had to protest, and we had to show the government that we're not going to accept the fact that they're, cut away from the norm in terms of not giving us the time that we required. So I was fully supportive of that, and I just hope that they don't do it again. And I can see why they did it, because the budget, when you go through it, is so riddled with all sorts of misnomers that clearly they did not want us to debate that in prime time in the parliament.
Certainly. And just to give you a little bit of feedback, you're getting some feedback here. This one says, Mr. Walker, we thank you and we stand with you, ready to defend Barbuda. This one says that this government grade is 1. This person says, Gaston Brown is not doing anything for Barbuda. He lucky he get 1. Gaston 0. J Truth says, Uncle Trevor, may look one like a piece of Barbuda land. Sincerely, your nephew J Truth. So on that note, Honorable Trevor Walker, I thank you so much, for making the time tonight on a Saturday night. You didn't even have a sip. You didn't have your water, but you're going to church tomorrow, so it's okay.
Yes, I'll have the living water tomorrow.
Hear you. Go ahead, preach it, my brother. Thank you so much and have a great evening.
No problem. Thank you for having me, and good night and all the best. Thank you.
Of course. Good evening. All right, guys. That was Honorable Trevor Walker. And yes, sorry, Matt. I should have said, oh, Lord. Sorry, Ika. I should have said that Miss Barbuda Weber, she's been here. That's definitely her. She's there. Everybody Barbuda strong. That was Honorable Trevor Walker. $1 million. 1 million. Did you guys hear a little bit of serpent this afternoon? Did you hear anything or all of it? Not even a little bit of it. There was a letter here that serpent was reading. Did you hear a little bit of it? Let's see the time. Hey, we gotta wrap up. I give you 1 minute. 1 minute.
below. Get to the people of Barbuda for this issue to be prolonged any further. Blatantly unfair. Now, bear in mind what Mr. Morgan said in a previous
You hear that letter? That letter and all the information that's coming out there, the whole thread of this discussion, the back and forth, it's just wow of a wow of a wow. And you know what? We're going to try to see what we can do with regards to getting Mr. Morgan, even if I have to go and find him, because he's here in the UK. So, maybe I might need a bus ride, just a bus ride away, go check him out, or a train ride away, sit down with our camera, say, so Mr. Morgan. What a thing, eh? We're gonna have to start giving some slogans, not slogans. What's it? It's not slogan. It's like these oh my goodness, what is it? It's not, it's terms that you use. Like, I'm gonna say it and then you can tell me what it is. Like when you say something that says moon does run till day catch 'em. Like, in Guyana, that's what we said. Moon does run till day catch 'em. If you understand, you translate. Moon does run till day catch 'em. This particular situation here, 6 years, 4 months, 14 days, communication between Prime Minister Gaston Brown, even in the month of January 2023. I've been making notes of all these different letters and communications before the elections in January 2023, and to go into a whole year up until January 2024, we're here, and that money has not been allocated. We should also invite Mr. Brian Stewart Young. Yes, Mr. Brian Stewart Young of Global Bank of Commerce. We need to invite you. Come on over, buddy. Come and have a little sip and chat with us here on Phoenix Free Press, because your name been calling a lot. Like Brian Stewart Young, your name been calling a lot. Even while I was doing the investigations for this Antigua Airways and so on, like, your name has been calling a lot. That's how I know the name, Brian Stewart Young. What a thing. Your name has been calling a lot. All right. But guys, we're going to wrap up. I want to thank you so much for joining me, joining us, joining this platform here, Phoenix Free Press. Okay. Do you see that little logo that I have up there with my Phoenix bird? Do you guys see my Phoenix bird and the NPE for Nikki Phoenix Enterprise? Tell me you like my logo. Tell me you like my logo. I'm just going to post it so you can see it, so you can hit like. Anyway, we got to go because you know what? It's Saturday night. And what happens on Saturday night at 10 o'clock? You better have your drinks and you better be locked into J Truth Live. Okay? It's tonight. Go on over there. So we have to go. Oh, you love it, eh? Thank you, Tika. Oh, yes, I love the logo too. So I have it there, Nikki Phoenix Enterprise. I'm gonna put it out so you guys can see some more. I'm just saying, and I need to promote myself more. I need to promote what I'm doing more. I need to ensure that what I'm doing makes sense. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you more about that. I had so much to do today, but I thought of doing like a little promo video for myself to say hi. I'm Nikki Phoenix. I do many projects. I got Camp Go Girl. And if you want, no, I really need to do something. Like I really need to do some marketing for myself and for my brand and for everything that I'm doing. So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So I'm glad you like my logo. It's an upgrade from my logo I had in like 2014, 2015. I kind of had the same kind of Phoenix bird logo. So I just went a little bit more extra kind of thing, a little bit more, a little bit more. And that's what we got right there. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for every single thing. The ideas and the suggestions to get Honorable Trevor Walker. Let me know what other suggestions you have. Let me know what other topics we should be discussing. And guys, I need to know how to separate. You see, because when I do these serious interviews, I got some messages and people saying, yeah, I love that, no. And then I get some messages, oh, like you're so too serious. And it's Saturday night. And, and then when I try to mix it up, now they're like, oh, you can't mix it up because, because, I don't usually, like, come on. Like really, what do we do? So you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna try and create different platforms at different times. I have, my funny. No, you didn't. Denise asked if did Gaston reply to your text. No, he didn't, and I'm still checking. And I think the Prime Minister have on a disappearing thing on his phone every 24 hours. So I'll send the same message tomorrow, and send the message the next day, and send the next day, and the next day, and the next day. We're just gonna keep sending it till he block us. No, he's not gonna block us. Let's see, because if he block us, we're gonna go on Facebook too. But he's not gonna block us. I don't think the Prime Minister runs from anybody. I've never seen him done that before. So he's bold enough. Well, come, let's sit and chat. Let's hear about this. But let's get Mr. Steve Morgan too to come and have a little sit down here with us, learn more about his organization, and learn more about what's been going on, how he feels. And let's see, who else is out there, because the question is, what other donation is out there that is not, Barbuda has not received it. And I was sharing with someone today, this particular story with regards to Barbuda, and the first comment that came out of the person's mouth was, if this was Japan or Korea, they would have rebuilt Barbuda within 3 months. That was the comment, like right away. If this was like, as in, if Hurricane Irma had hit Korea or hit Japan or one of those countries in 3 months, because they would have rebuilt it, and they would have rebuilt it better than how it was before. And we're still at a state where Barbuda, like, yeah, where the money gone? It's just a question. Where is all the money? And you realize that, I was going to say something else, but I'll leave that for another time. I'll leave that for another time, guys. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Phoenix Free Press. Oh, how come GB block and nobody like me then? No, I don't think he's gonna block us, man. No, no, no. Let's see. Let's see if he blocks us. We're gonna put an SOS out. Or we're gonna call Point FM. I'll call Point FM. I'll call Troy Allen. Yes. It is. Boy, go start the show. What you doing here? What you doing here? It's 3 minutes after. Go on, go start the live so I can hang up here and go over there. It's J Truth. Go start. Guys, we're gonna wrap up now. Thank you very much for your love, for your support, for everything that we're doing. I know, right? I'm working on Steve Morgan. I'm working on him for sure. Don't worry. And we're working on many other things, but we're doing it together. Yeah. Stay blessed, stay loved, and most of all, stay prayed up. I really, really want you guys to stay prayed up. It's a very important time, a very serious time right now. It's a spiritual warfare. Understand that as much as possible and stay prayed up. Go start the live. I'm hanging up now. Blessed, guys. Take care. One love.